My name is Chrissy Siegel, and I am a member of the A.R.T team, and I'm known as the Nipple Fairy, and I'm over here in Columbus, Ohio. And today I am going to be talking with Becky Barker, and she's in England. So welcome, Becky, and can you tell everybody about yourself?
Hello. um, I'm Becky. I started doing traditional tattooing in 2008, and then I moved into medical tattooing in 2019.
Mm.
And yeah, it's been great because it's like another challenge on top of just tattooing, and I've learned so much from like you guys, and just being able to connect with you guys is so wonderful. I live in Malvern, England, which is basically like a scene from Lord of the Rings, which is really nice as well. And I've got a husband, a child, and lots of pets. So
Awesome.
that's pretty much my life, yeah.
Yeah, and tattooing, so which is great.
Yes.
Um, So I'm going to ask you just a little bit about. I know you do traditional tattooing, but also now with the breast tattooing, just some of the like some of the good things. So this kind of is going to encompass the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of the good, what would you describe your very favorite part of doing the restorative breast work would be for you?
I think it's just seeing how much these little tattoos, like how much of a difference they actually make to people. I feel that a lot of people, they go through the process of getting a nipple tattoo sometimes just because it's the thing to do at this point in their journey, and they don't realize until actually they see it themselves, like how impactful that can be. And just like, I don't know, I'm very talkative and friendly and open, so I build connections with people really easily, so I have some like really lovely people I get to spend time with. And yeah, just the fact that like they're finally taking control of something that they've had no control over for a long time. And yeah, it's a really empowering experience, and I feel very like honored to be a part of it as well.
Yeah, it really is a privilege, right, to come into these people's lives. So
Yeah,
we're pretty lucky like that, I feel like.
yeah, definitely, it's an honor for
Yeah.
sure.
So one of the things I think is super unique about you is that you took the initiative to do a survey with breast patients. And I know people over here in America may not understand your healthcare system or how the NHS works, how the tattooing is kind of divvied up over there. So can you talk a little bit about your survey and kind of what you found with the ladies with their responses?
Yeah, sure. So over here, the nipple tattooing is offered as part of like someone's breast cancer journey in hospital, which I know is kind of the same globally. The difference here is with the NHS, obviously the NHS pays for everything. So it's seen as like a free procedure. People just get it done. And a lot of people getting this procedure done don't really understand. And in fact, the NHS themselves don't understand how much of a specialist service it is. So people are often disappointed with the results, but don't feel like they can say anything because it's the NHS and we love the NHS and we don't want to complain about the NHS. But I got to a point where, I mean, even now, most of my work is fixing NHS tattoos. It's just a horrible fact of, what we do. Um,
Mhm.
and I had a client who told me that she had like two pink smudges on her breast, which is kind of standard. And
Mhm.
she said that she hadn't shown her husband her breasts in like 15 years since she had them tattooed. And that just kind of got me thinking. Like we hear these stories a lot about how like, this faded, nasty, smudgy thing um,
Right,
has
right.
made people feel. So I was like, well, it's no good me sitting here screaming and shouting because I'm a tattoo artist. No one cares what I have to say. Like I haven't had breast cancer. I don't really have a right to say anything. So I wanted to give people like a voice, like, people that have actually suffered this a voice. Um,
Mm.
and Stacey helped me put some questions together, and then we asked people just online around the world anonymously to kind of we just asked them how they felt about their nipple tattoos once they had healed. Like it was a satisfaction scale from like 1 to 10, and then it was like, did you feel that the final results caused you any like mental anguish? Did you have any other ill effects from the tattoo experience, kind of thing? um and it was the majority of, I think it was 89% of people that completed the survey, there was like 106, had been tattooed by the hospital system. So that's over here and also like worldwide.
Uh-huh.
And 81% of that group said that they were dissatisfied, as in it was like, I can't remember what exact number that we used, but it was, you know, they were not satisfied with the healed result. But the thing that got me is that 51% of people felt that it had affected their mental health in a bad way. And
Mhm.
you know, when we think about like mental health and stuff, and it's like, oh, did it make you a bit sad? Like, do you know what I mean? But like the comments on this survey, like even now, every time I tell the story of the woman in the bath, yeah, it makes people feel worse about their breast reconstruction. It makes them depressed. They don't want to get dressed in front of their kids or their husband. Like it can ruin
Yeah, because
relationships.
the lady in the bath, she told you she bathed with her bra on, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, to avoid
Yeah,
looking at herself in the mirror.
yeah.
And it's like, you know, I know that in a lot of cases a nipple tattoo is not going to fix everything, but at least if it's a good nipple tattoo, it takes the focus away from the scarring, and you know, maybe someone can actually learn to accept the way they look, even though, you know, not everyone's story is a fairy tale. We don't all have, you know, nice results from surgery, but it's such an important part, and it's just one that is so overlooked, especially by the NHS over here. Like I've just had an argument with them again. um, they just keep turning
Now,
people out.
you're an advocate, Becky. You are an
I'm
advocate.
just burning bridges. But yeah, they've just sent someone else on a 4-day course with an academy over here that's just renowned for yeah, so the 4-day course thing, and then that's it, they're tattooing then in the on the NHS, and of course everyone goes to them because they're on the NHS, and it's like, oh, you
Right,
don't know what you're doing.
right.
So
And I think that's hard too, because the ladies, you know, they trust their doctors, they trust their surgeons, you know, these people essentially did life-saving procedures for them. And so it's kind of like, well, why wouldn't they just trust to go on down the line and get this tattoo? Because it's, you know, because of the trust factor. But then they end up, just as your, you know, as you talked in your TED talk about, like so many of the majority, the overwhelming majority of these women are absolutely devastated in all areas of their life. So I just love that you did that survey. I love your TED talk. I love so much about you, because you can sit all day long and say, oh, I'm just a tattoo artist. But man, I mean, you are making ripples in the pond, and you're causing change. And that's why I wanted to interview you, because you're a catalyst for change, and I love that about you, because you want to do right in the
yeah, well,
world.
I mean, I can't remember, it might have been Stacey I was even talking to, but I was just like, it's so horrible. Like I obviously can't emphasize completely with people, like I don't know what it feels like to go through what these women have been through, but it's like watching someone being consistently bullied or like, you
Mhm.
know, punched in the face and not doing anything about it. It's like, if, if there's something we can do, we've got to do it. So I'm really honored to just be working with you guys on like standards and all of those things, and you know, because further down the line it will be fine. And like, I don't want to make anyone feel rubbish about the work they're doing, and I, you know, I have to
Sure.
be careful about what I say, because it's not their fault. Like if they're told they can learn to tattoo on a 4-day course, whose fault is that? Is it the trainers? Is it the NHS that don't know any better, that don't understand the
Right.
skill that goes into tattooing? Like where does the accountability lie? So
Yes.
yeah, it's a tough one.
Well, so when you talk about like, what do you think is the biggest contributing factor to this problem of these poorly made tattoos? So that's one question, because you know, obviously we live far apart from each other, but it's multi level, right?
Yeah,
For what are the contributing factors? Um, so
yeah.
what do you feel like? Poor, you know, it's poor education. It's done by people that don't know.
To be honest, I've come to the conclusion it's money. It's money
Hmm.
on so many fronts. So we've got a hospital system that you've got the NHS England, which is the big NHS, and then all the individual trusts can claim from the NHS England for procedures that they do. And they claim quite a
Okay.
lot of money for the nipple tattooing. Now, that money doesn't go to the nurse who's doing the nipple tattoos. It doesn't go, I don't know what it goes to. But of course, they're not going to stop doing the procedure because they claim money off NHS England. It's part of their budget. And then you've
Hmm.
got trainers that like I just refuse to believe that anybody can accept that anybody can learn to tattoo anything in 4 days. I couldn't learn to tattoo a stick man in 4 days, Chrissy. So it's like, if you've never touched a tattoo machine before, so it's like, well, maybe we shouldn't be training nurses, but then obviously these people are making a lot of money training nurses. So it's like, I think it all just comes down to money. It's there is a lack of education, and that is a big problem as well. But
Mm.
it's just policy and money, and I do believe that, you know, people training people should really know better. Like, it's just hard. I don't know what the actual pinpoint problem is. It seems to be, like you said, like so many tiers of things, but ultimately it comes to money over care, like in my view.
Yeah.
um
So if you were talking about like if they do this standard 4-day training for the nurses over there, like over here, I mean, I tattooed as a nurse in the doctor's office. I watched 6 hours of DVDs and I watched one nurse do one tattoo and I was turned loose. Like that's abhorrent.
yeah.
Like it is so bad. And then I'd been tattooing like a couple years and then I got a 2-day class. It's just crazy. So I think here, what I tend to see is like the 2-day classes a lot. So I wanted to kind of have you hit on, what do you feel like as an experienced body tattooer for many years and doing breast work, like what do you feel in your heart is like important for people to know fundamentally and have down before they would ever want to do breast tattooing?
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to like a fundamental knowledge of tattooing. And what I mean by that is, like, I know that you went and worked in a tattoo shop, and it's a very different environment, isn't it? But generally in a tattoo
Mm-hmm.
shop, we know how to set up our machine, we know how our machine works, we know what we're looking for when skin gets damaged, we know how to maneuver clients, we know how to stretch skin, we know there's just so many elements, and this is why we do long apprenticeships. It's not because it's just because it takes that long to learn and get into good habits. And even with cross contamination and stuff, like, I don't believe that you can really have that drilled into your head enough in that short amount of time either, and that's a very important thing. So I feel like if anybody who is moving into medical tattooing, like, they don't have to be a tattoo artist, they might be a fantastic PMU artist, but I see that a lot of the kind of PMU artists that are pushing boundaries and doing these amazing work, they generally have a background in tattooing. So there's something to be said about just understanding, you know, how to tattoo, and um you know, what does given stroke mean, what does that mean to me, like, how do pigments actually get implanted into the skin, how do I make sure I'm getting good saturation without overworking skin, like, and just like lots of, there's so much. Like, but I think it just comes down to that. Like, I think if everyone spent time in a tattoo shop like you did, you'd probably be better prepared for, you know, what's to come. Because especially with breast reconstructions, like, I tattooed a lady today and it was a decorative tattoo, but of course she had radiation. I have no idea how that's going to heal, and I've tattooed for 15 years. My work generally heals really good. So it's
Mm-hmm.
hard when you're faced with this situation where you're like, I have no idea how this is going to go. um
Yep.
but you know, by having that confidence and that experience and being like, well, I know that I can touch this again in this amount of time, or, you know, um it just makes a massive difference, and mainly it gives people confidence, and then it'll give people confidence in you. um I think, like, what I don't like seeing is people that have, I don't know, it's almost like refusing to admit that this is all tattooing, like whether it's PMU, whether it's medical tattooing, whether it's SMP or scar, like, it's all tattooing, and there's a
Mm.
lot to be learned from the tattoo industry in regards to that, and I don't know why anyone would. But it's like you get this, there's just a big division, isn't there? And then there's like the pink tax. So if you buy something that's PMU related, it's like twice the price as something that's it's the same thing. And it's just,
It
it's a
is.
weird industry that again is built on money really, isn't it? But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when we think about like how can we make this better? Like, what do you think some of the things that we could help facilitate to kind of protect survivors and help them get quality work that they deserve? So what do you think some of the solutions would be?
I suppose it comes down to, because in tattooing it's always been a case of, you can never stop people learning to tattoo from home, or you can never stop people not having that, like, education. That's just part of what happens. So really it's a comes down to educating the people that want to get the tattoos and making sure that they know what they're looking for in a practitioner and seeing the healed work. And I do have people that, you know, did get offered a tattoo in hospital and they're like, well, no. Like, it's educating people that just because someone's got tattoos, they're not scary, or, you know, because a lot of our clients, they're not tattooy people, they'd never come to a tattoo studio. And just helping like tattooing, I think, just be seen as something that is something to be respected and not feared. I don't think we're ever going to stop the trainers. I don't think we're, you know, we will change the system, but it's going to take a while. Like, I
Mhm.
do believe at some point it will change. So we just need to kind of reach those survivors looking for tattoos and make sure that they understand that there actually is a difference in quality and service and how to work out what's good and what's not for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, you know, with the education that you can get through like the ART program, learning all about the surgeries that these ladies have had and the effects of radiation and scar tissue, like that is a phenomenal amount of information that, you know, it's important, it's kind of critical to know if you're going to do this breath work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, so it's, yeah, like what's happening with ART is I don't know, it's really wonderful and it's filling a massive gap that's been created.
Yeah.
Um yeah, like there's so much stuff that I've learned recently that I didn't really know. Like, you know, it's
Yeah.
just like, you know, just with
Yeah.
the breast surgery, isn't, yeah, you're just kind of like, oh, okay, like that means that's awesome.
Because
But
I
yeah,
think with this, it's like there's like the medical knowledge, and then there's, are you artistic? Can you draw a nipple on this paper? Like, can you achieve realism? And then can you safely take your knowledge and your abilities and actually translate that into a safe, beautiful tattoo on this person's skin that's compromised, right? So it's like there's all these different areas, and everybody really that does this work, I know we kind of feel the same. They should have all these boxes checked before they go and touch a human being.
yeah, well, it's the least that these people deserve. Like they've literally, I mean, you know, my mum's going through it at the minute. So like this is the closest I've ever been to the process
Oh
that's
my
been asked to go
gosh.
through when battling cancer. And it's like, it's horrific. Like it's absolutely, you know, it's devastating. And it's just it's the least these people deserve when you've been through that, is to have a nice tattoo at the end. Like it's the smallest, you know, out of everything, it's the smallest part, but it's, you know, it's the least people deserve. And I think that the problem is it's like people that get into this work, sorry, um generally do so because they want to help, and nobody wants to hear that what they're doing is hurting people, like because they just want to help. But if there's no education there for people to learn safely, or there's no conversation around like, well, actually, how much do you need to know,
Mm.
um I mean, is it something that can be learned in 4 days and I'm just really slow? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. But yeah, it's hard not to get upset when you're an empath and you're faced with these people on a daily basis. And yeah.
Well, that's because your heart is in the right spot. I mean, that's I just love all these things about you. And I'm, you know, you're super passionate and you always want to advocate for what is the right thing to do for this community, for the breast cancer community, like what is right. And that's what you talk about. That's what your TED Talk was about. Like I'm so thankful that you let me interview you today and give us some pearls of wisdom that we can help. And I think if you know, survivors end up watching this video, then it can just help them make a better educated choice when they go to pick their artists, right? Because they hear people like you talking.
Yeah, that's the idea. And I appreciate you interviewing me because I think you're amazing. So.
Well, thanks. Oh, well, thank you so much. And so this will be on the ART's YouTube channel.
Yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
Becky. Right,
All
bye.
right.